Hello and welcome to another video showing you how top grades are easy to get. Today, as you know, we're focusing on 5 ways to cheat, and I'll explain what I mean by cheat, because obviously I don't want you to really go and cheat and get disqualified. These are entirely legal cheats. We'll go through these 5 during the video, but first let's think about why you might need them. Here there are 13 typical exam questions. Many of them have already been set in the past. And the key thing they've all got in common is that anybody, no matter how ignorant, can answer them. Now this causes you a massive problem if you want to show that you're more expert than other people. And how do you show you're more expert? We're going to go and see what the ancient Greeks did. So the ancient Greeks invented rhetoric, which is where persuasive writing comes from. They invented persuasion with words, and they said, look, we've got a million techniques to teach you, but they basically fall into 3 categories, which they called ethos, pathos, and logos. We're not going to delve into these 3 other than ethos, because ethos was your ability to present yourself as an authority figure, as an expert. Well, you can see the problem. You're 15 and 16 years old. How on earth can you present yourself as an expert? This is where the cheats come in. Okay, our first cheat is to begin the answer with a challenge, no matter what the question is, and I'm going to give you some wording that you can steal. So the challenge can start like this. Look, I know what you're thinking. And then your next sentence goes on to describe the point of view that disagrees with you. Now, why that's important is when you dismiss the person who disagrees with you, you're automatically being persuasive and you're looking at more than one point of view, so you jump up the mark scheme. But this is the superpower. Knowing the story of Elon Musk will give you authority. It will give you that ethos. And because he is totally obsessed with the future, everything about him will be relevant to every single question you ever get in the exam. I promise you, Elon Musk is going to save your grade. So I'll demonstrate that to you now. We know that SpaceX is his company being developed with the ultimate aim of taking mankind to Mars and beyond. So how would I bring that in? Well, if I had a question on travel, I would be talking about how travel is ruining the Earth, which is why we need to think bigger. We need to think about escaping the Earth. This idea of setting our sights high and escaping the Earth would also work with famous people should be role models, or that we should ban cars from city centres. Now, not only is he trying to save humankind for the oncoming ecological disaster that will happen over the next 200 years, he's also trying to take us into space with a very low cost. So he's reduced the cost of getting into space by 2/3. Well, what questions would that relate to? Well, we could definitely link it to reducing the environmental impact of travel. If I think Elon Musk is a villain, I'm going to argue that he makes this kind of travel easier and is therefore ruining the environment. But if he's a hero, he's trying to protect the environment by getting us off planet. So I can use him as a role model or an anti-role model. Yes, of course we should ban cars from city centres. Elon Musk is so passionate about it that he's taking us into space in order not to continue polluting the Earth. What makes a good education? Well, what's he going to say? Science and engineering. Sport teaches the wrong values, but I'll tell you what does teach the right values. Science and engineering and looking after the planet. Elon Musk, that's who. So hopefully you can see how all these facts would fit different questions as long as you think about them. We can also point to the fact that he's not out just to make loads of money. He's actually trying to save people money. He's reduced the cost of space travel by 90%. What was he like as a student? Well, at the age of 12, he designed a video game. This is when video games were pretty new, and he actually sold it for $500, which was worth quite a lot, I imagine, when he was 12. So I can definitely link that to the idea that parents ought to let their children develop and not put shackles and restrictions on them. I could definitely link it to the idea that technology needs to come into schools. I can link it to the idea that students ought to be able to have part-time jobs. I could also say that this kind of real experience is much more valuable than homework. I could argue that a really good school doesn't just teach towards exams, it gives students life skills. And obviously it's going to link to the idea of famous people being role models. Could I link any of this to keeping animals in zoos? Yes, I could. When Elon Musk takes us into space and wants to relocate animals into new environments, well, how will we learn how to breed them in artificial conditions? I'll tell you how. We'll put them in the artificial condition of a zoo, and from that we'll have the technological know-how to breed animals in space and other planets. And we haven't even touched on the idea that he created PayPal and then sold it to save the planet in other ways. We haven't even talked about Tesla and how he's introducing electric cars to the universe. He even shot one into space. Nor have we mentioned his sense of humour and sci-fi addiction. He even called one of his sons Xavier after Professor Xavier from the X-Men. There's a lot you could do with that, either portraying him as a visionary or a villain. He has had to overcome hardship, so his father he describes as evil. His father Errol shot and killed 3 men who tried to break into his home, and he actually also had an relationship with Elon Musk's stepsister. Not a pleasant man. He had to overcome bullying as a child and as a result learned karate, judo and wrestling at the age of 15, and I bet nobody messed with him after that. You could apply that to so many of the questions. You could argue that he's somebody to look up to not just because of his height, but also because of the way he's applied his IQ. I think genius level IQ starts at 152. But interestingly, there'll be several people in your year who've got an IQ at least as high as Elon Musk. And the man just doesn't stop. As soon as he sees a problem, he thinks up a solution. So he's stuck in traffic one day and thinks this is ridiculous, the cars are going nowhere, and suddenly comes up with the idea of making a drilling company that will make tunnels underneath cities to transport cars at much higher speed. What did he call the business? The Boring Company. Well, it makes me laugh. There are other fascinating facts about his children. So his first child died in the cot at 10 weeks old. We can certainly sympathise with the feelings that he must have had then. And then he's had 6 more children, all of whom are boys, and he's had them all by artificial insemination. Now, no one can prove it, but did he select their gender? That is a pretty controversial one. Again, is he a visionary or a villain? And he has famously said, you're an idiot if you work less than a 100-hour week. Because if you work a 100-hour week, you will be doing at least double your competitors and will always get ahead of them. Is this the vision of a great man, or the blindness as to what makes life worthwhile? So you can see there are so many interesting facts about Elon Musk, I've only scratched the surface, that they would apply to all sorts of questions. Those facts are going to put you in the position of expert and mark you out as different from other candidates. You will get higher marks by relating facts about Elon Musk's life to whatever the topic is. The final of this 3 is logos, an appeal to reason and logic. Well, because Elon Musk is all about applying reason and logic to impossible ambitions like getting to Mars and making those things possible, you will always be able to hit the logos criteria of your writing as well. Another top skill that writers use persuasively is having lots and lots of metaphors. Now, you can prepare a few of these in advance and make them fit any question. So, for example, you can present your brilliant idea as like a pearl hidden within an oyster. Once you open it up, it becomes wonderful. You can also dismiss the people who disagree with your idea as like swine. So there's a verse in the Bible which talks about good ideas being like pearls cast before swine. In other words, these brilliant things are put in front of people who are too stupid to recognise how brilliant they are. For point number 4, I don't want to have any political bias, so pick a political figure that you dislike, or even hate, and then imagine how they would react to the idea that you're proposing. And then put that in your writing. So they will become the villain of whatever topic you're doing. Now, in my guide, which you can find on Amazon, I've actually given you 11 and with a little imagination you could make Putin or as well as the guy, so that works out 64 whoever it is each answer, and the rest of the guide any one of these questions. There will be loads of ideas using these real-life figures that everybody knows will give you more ethos and higher marks. And number 5 gives us your conclusion. This will work for every single topic that could possibly come up. You are going to look at the dystopia, which means a deteriorating society. Or the opposite of that, a utopia, a society which is getting better and better. Musk you're going to use as somebody who thinks society is becoming a dystopia and he wants to give us the capacity to escape it and go into space. Or you're going to use someone like Bill Gates, who's put his billions into developing things like a cure for malaria for the world. Here's a man who wants to make the world an amazing place. Being able to talk about this contrast between a dystopian future and a utopian future will fit every question and again mark you out as an expert. It's going to give you more ethos and higher marks. Now the other brilliance which you probably noticed is you've suddenly got a beginning which you've prepared in advance, you've got an ending which you've prepared in advance, and you know how the argument is going to go because there are 3 things you're going to bring into that argument. Elon Musk as your hero or villain, a political figure as your villain. Now, interestingly, I wasn't sure quite how important metaphors were until I wrote my guide, and I found that the average number of metaphors I put into a grade 9 answer was between 15 and 20. It's actually incredibly easy. Dive in to see how I do it. If you want to learn more about how to be a brilliant persuasive writer, you need to check out both of these videos appearing on the left and the right. I promise you, you won't be disappointed in what you learn.